Hey, it's Don the Auction Professor. Today I'm going to introduce you into a whole new category of collectibles. I know a lot of folks are having a hard time finding, postcards or Victorian trade cards. Some of you have been lucky enough to find large quantities and have found sources. I hear it and see it in my Facebook group, the Auction Professor, as well there too. So I know that this stuff is out there, not just in my area. Again, it may vary in your area what is available, but other items that I get are dairy items, specifically milk dairy and things along that line. And I've sold a lot of them. You've seen them in some of the videos. I've never talked about them specifically, but things just like this, like milk caps from the actual vintage bottles from the 30s and 40s. Here is a milk cap as well too. Now these have been turned into nowadays into what's called pogs. So if you're not familiar, pogs came from milk caps. These are actually the seal that go on the top of a milk container. It's basically cardboard. This is waxed cardboard and paper. They're different kinds, of course. They would show up in big tubes like this. So like this is actually, let's see if I can get one out of here too. This is actually just these. And they are literally sealed in here in these tubes. I don't know how many's in one of these. I've got a bunch of these actually right now from a haul not too long ago. But these can sell for a ton of money. Some of these lids can go for hundreds of dollars. Some of these from areas such as, territory of Hawaii can go for $300 and $400 for this little piece of cardboard. And they can be bought in big, huge, massive quantities of these caps, milk bottle caps. And it doesn't just have to be milk bottle caps. The bottles actually sell as well too. We're just going to go over to the screen right now, and I'm going to show you some dairy products that sell. And again, these are items that you can run into at garage sales even, because the bottles still show up. I'm not huge on bottles, but I will always buy some of the better dairy product bottles. When my father was 18, 19, he worked for a dairy around here, so I learned about this category when I was younger, when we found some milk-related items from where he worked in the garage, and we made a ton of money on those. And ever since then, I look for them all the time. And again, it's something that's always missed. Literally by most people. They won't think anything of a dirty old label like this or a little piece of cardboard. It goes right into the lines of people missing postcards and things along that line, or trade cards. But we're going to go to the screen, and I'm going to show you some higher dollar items in this category.
Okay, so we're going to show you some dairy items, as I said. We'll start with milk caps, but I'm going to show you some other items too. It's not going to be a long video today. You just have to have an idea on some of the other items that are available besides postcards, besides trade cards. And this goes back to small paper items. There's going to be some bottles, there's going to be signs and things like that, but these are items that I see that people miss all the time. And I don't see tons of them. I do see them routinely, so there is always an option to make some good money off of these items. As you can see, the first one up here, I talked about Hawaii, Honolulu specifically. That one went for $709. It's just one of those little cardboard caps like I've showed you in the beginning of this video. Here's some more for San Diego Chargers. So there's sports ones. You'll see them for famous people of all types. Now here's a whole roll of those, just like I showed you the roll of the other type of lid. These small caps actually come that way too. But as you can see, even some from like Homecoming. This is Homecoming from Wisconsin, just Madison area. This is a local small area that made specific caps for the local area. And these are like scarce varieties, I guess you'd say. Advertising. They're literally advertising. Here's another Madison, Wisconsin again. Northwestern, this is college, obviously. Victory Coal. This one's advertising coal on one of the milk caps, which is an oddball combination. So again, just because there's some little tiny piece of paper, it doesn't mean they don't hold some good value in these. Now, they're going to have a staple on it, too. I'm not really sure what the staple indicates or why it's there. Maybe a tag or something goes onto it. I only pay attention to what it's worth and potential money in them. And you can see there's a lot of Wisconsin, but that's not just the specifics. You see there's advertisements for other companies, small dairies, oddball-looking ones, licensed dairy milk. I mean, they actually had to write the word license like you could do it like it didn't have to be licensed back then. They're just really good items across the board. Most dairy in general sells very well. Now here's one of the similar caps like I showed you as well too, $200. This is just for a specific hotel. Borden, I've talked about Borden as well. Here's a whole set of Borden for $200. They're not all worth a ton of money, as you see, but $198 for a little cap like this that you can find in a bin because no one bothered to look it up, that's a different story. Now, I've seen these at antique malls many, many times. I got some last month at an antique mall, so don't tell me that they're not there, because they are. But even if you're looking for postcards, the chances you probably walked by these and didn't pay a single bit of attention to them. They're just some little piece of cardboard. You know, and a lot of dealers will get them and they'll be in a bag and won't think that they're collectible and just throw them in a booth for $1 or $2. You know, there's some that are obviously going to look this up and they're going to know everything about the item, but, you know, you're counting on the percentage of people that don't look up the paper and don't look up these small items. Again, there's a ton of these out here. They do sell across the board. I mean, there's literally a ton of them that do sell. And there's movie ones that are new. Pogs, as I said. Here's $170 for a group of Pogs. Yes, there's 3,000 of these. But these are things you can even pick up at auctions locally in huge bundles because kids used to collect these. Most people think they don't carry any value because for the most part they don't. So they might have spent $20 on this $170 lot at the auction because that's about the price I would probably see that many at the auctions I go to. And I've seen them at auctions, just not that many at once. You'll see them in binders and things like that. And you could probably sell some of them individually. Now, here's a Yellowstone one. It's got airplanes in it, obviously World War II. So they're not even super old. You know, you're talking back to the 40s. But as you see here, there's a lot that are collectible in here. You see a lot of Wisconsin because Wisconsin was the dairy capital of the United States, I guess you could say at one time. Even their slogan was "Come smell our dairy air," which is kind of like a pun, obviously. But just look through here. What I ask you to do if you're interested, do a comp search on milk bottle caps. Just do a quick one on your own. Take a look at them. And you'll need to start looking around for some of these things. They don't look like much. Some people think they're tokens or something. They're not. They're obviously milk caps. There's different kinds. The other kind that I show you is right here. They go on this type of bottle. So this is one type here. And again, we're going to show you some bottles too in just a minute here so you can see the horrendous value on some of these items. I mean, some of these are really good looking caps. I mean, that's pretty interesting. This one here, Pure Jersey Milk. You just have to know a little bit about some of these items to be able to price them and find them. You know, even if some of these are $5, they're still worth getting. There was a Ford's Dairy in Mississippi where we lived, and I found some of these similar ones from that area. There's many different Fords, some of them, including the one in the Mississippi where we lived, copied off of Ford Motor Companies, and it made it worth money because of that. So, again, these are just little pieces of cardboard, round circular discs about the size of $50, and they sell religiously. Now, there's tokens of these, too. You can type in milk token, and you're going to find brass and copper and aluminum tokens that are similar in size, $50 size or quarter size, that advertise these as well. And right here is, we're just going to look for quickly on tokens now. Milk tokens. There's not a ton of them, but they do show up. Even the book talking about the tokens goes for $75. I mean, these are rare items. There's not a ton of tokens out. And part of the reason you don't see a bunch up is people don't look for them or don't think much of them when they see them. Sometimes they're newer. Sometimes they're even from the 50s, but they're still worth money. So again, just keep that in mind. There's not a ton of them, as I said, but you can see here they still do sell $45, and these are buy it nows, so they might have been able to sell it for $75 if they put a higher price on it, because who knows, you're setting the price when you put these up here. So again, there's a lot of other items that you can find in the dairy category. Let's just move on to dairy in general as well too. Now, these are signs. We had some of these from when my father worked at Borden's here in our local area, so I know the value on these. They do show up locally here because there is a big Borden's here as well, too. But these are signs, not all of them. Now, this is just a coupon. This is literally a paper coupon, probably wrapped. Stand-ups, you know, you got signs. There's some items that obviously don't belong in this category for some reason. Here's those cone wraps again, and this is different denominations. You know, these do show up in fantasy collections, that those who collect fantasy bills and things like that. New Haven Dairy, you know, there's magazines that were actually published with Mickey Mouse. There's actually recipe cards that are published with milk products on recipe cards. There's clocks that are published with it. Here, hang on, let me pop back down there just a second. Sorry, folks. Here is a Nylint. Now, Nylint, this is probably 50s or even probably into the 60s, and this went for $710 because of the company it was advertising. You know, advertising for dairy is harder to get. Let's see, here's another one of the magazines right here. First issue samples, $700 almost. So I mean, these stuff goes across the board. And there's more besides just Mickey Mouse that had these cone wrappers. And I've seen just cone wrappers, stacks of just cone wrappers. There's a lot of other dairy products that you can go for. And again, do some quick searches if you're not sure on this. Schwane's President's Club. Now, Schwane's is an ice cream company. They add some delivery services. The same thing. I mean, these all go into the play here. So, there's more than just a few things in this category. There's lots of things. These are slabs from actually the dairy shops and stuff. There's many dairy items that you would be surprised are worth money. Back to the bottle caps again. Signs, of course. Some of these giant milk jugs I sell too, even in bad condition, even worn out. If you can make out the patent and things like that, these sell. And I sell every one of these I get on eBay with the buyer paying for postage. Usually $75 is the cheapest I sell one of these for. And I usually can get them for $15-20 when they're semi-rusted out. They'll probably be close to this condition, maybe a little more rust, but either way they're solid, complete with no holes in them, and I can still get them in that price. So again, there's a ton of stuff in this area. The magazines, obviously, printed material. Here's caps. There's a box of them. There's boxes, even just the boxes like cones came in from the 20s and 30s are worth money, without the cones, of course. There's wrappers. There's labels off these same items as well, too. So, again, this just should give you an idea, things to look for. Dixie lid premiums. Around the cone in the paperwork, $1,100. So, light up signs, $1,400. I mean, it's just a lot of money into these items. This is another area. They're in the trade card section. The round lids that you'd pull off, and they'd have a whole set of, say, Tom Mix was one of them. Tom Corbett's another one. And there'll be like 32, 36 actual different lids that each lid has a specific scene or a person in it from that show or from that movie or from a sport, because there are sports ones of these too. And I run into these and see them on a regular basis, even at flea markets, antique malls, antique stores, and things along that line. Auctions especially. I talk about auctions. That's probably one of the best places to find quantity of items for a cheaper amount of money. So just keep that in mind as we look through here. Again, spend some time looking through here. You'd be surprised. Somebody had ear tags in my Facebook group. Here's another example of oddball items. They ran into this similar thing. It doesn't even have to say dairy on it. You add dairy and farm to it because most of these would be in possession of a dairy farmer because they're going to have cows in their place for the milk. So you're going to see these. So there's a lot more ancillary items that will show up in this category. Now let's just go on to the last one here. Again, I told you it wasn't going to be a long video. Spend some time researching some of these items. Milk bottles alone. Now, this is one that showed up here locally. Somebody I know actually got one of these. There is some question on whether it was irradiated or not, but I don't think so. I've seen it in person once. This bottle is something you could run across. It's not, I wouldn't say it's not rare, but a lot of people don't know that milk bottles carry such a value, so they might not think much of it. The color was done to preserve the milk and make it last longer. They even actually do that now. I've seen gallon jugs now that are not see-through, where you can't see it at all. They're just opaque plastic, and that's part of why. Now here's another oddball one, like this one here, Reverend Billy Graham Brothers Dairy. Now, there's a lot of stuff you need to know about some famous people because other people own places like that, and stuff sells because of who owned them in some cases. But I'm just going to scan through here so you can see. We're still in the $600 range for milk bottles. What people do is they'll fill them up with little white beads or something so you can see the item. Sometimes what they also do is they'll paint over the actual lettering so you can read it. Now, that's not frowned upon in many instances. It's not really damaged if you're doing safe paint on it too, because it can be scrubbed off. So I have actually done that as well too. But again, look at the prices here. Now, these are just sold ones. Because you can sit there and look them up yourself too. But again, there's a ton of them here. Now, here's some labels. Just labels, and this is just off the neck of the bottle. It's missing the bottom label, $365. Now, Disney is a big part of the dairy field, and if you didn't know, Donald Duck Orange Juice is another one. So they actually had the juice and the milk market at one time. They were leaders in the field. I've got some cans from the 50s and 60s from some of the Disney soda shops they made as well, too. So they did soda on top of that. They were a marketing genius when Walt actually started the company. I'm not going to talk about his character because there's been some saddening information that's come out well past his passing, but You know, for what he did business-wise, he was a good businessman for the most part from everything he did. And again, this is just shows you that the price on these. There's a ton of milk bottles. Most of these you can pull a comp fairly well, at least on the bottles. The caps and stuff, maybe not as much, but if you see them out there and they're 50 cents or a quarter, you're going to make a couple bucks off of them no matter what. You know, so just keep that in mind. But that's what I have for you today. And as I said, do some comp searches yourself. I try to do comp searches all the time. I'll spend 5 or 10 minutes sitting somewhere on my phone and just do some searches on comps and see what's up. You know, that's just how you learn stuff. I've been into milk bottles and dairy items for probably the last 3+ years. We've made a ton of money on it. When I have a lot of milk items in like this, they pretty much always sell. I don't think I have much in shelf or on the shelf of any dairy items that I haven't sold yet. I mean, they're all gone. They're usually sold once I put them up. There's very few items that will sit in-house if they're dairy related. Maybe some Victorian trade cards if I get a huge bunch of them in and I list a bunch at once. But an area like this, if you do get a bunch of them in, you don't want to list them all at once. You want to kind of sparse them out and only list 1 or 2 at a time so that they have the impression that there's not a ton of them out there so that the first few would sell higher. And you can do this with anything. So let's say you got a huge collection of, say, 500 or more of an item. Only list 1 at a time, you know, especially if you don't have much into it. Try to get your money back off of 1 or 2 sales, and then the rest is just gravy. And if you need to blow them out at some point, that's fine. But if you found a bunch of them, there's always a chance that somebody else has a bunch of them. So just keep that in mind, that when you get oddball stuff and you've got a huge quantity of them, there might be a chance there's more of a quantity out there still available. You want to list those items immediately. So that would play into my 90-day plan. The 90-day plan, I list stuff that's important or needs to be listed right away. So I'll move stuff around just to list stuff like this. So anyway, that's what I have for you today.
Well, there you go. Again, I know this is an oddball category, but I'm trying to expand your knowledge so you understand that there are other things that are worth a ton of money. These aren't as comparable as, you know, the highest dollar postcard or the highest dollar trade card, but they show up and they're usually cheap. You know, you might pay 5 cents for something like this or buy a whole bunch of these for 5 or 10 bucks. You know, like this bag here. I have, you know, a few bucks into it, not much really, in either one of these. And again, these kind of things show up. People pass up on these specifically, these exact same things, because they don't look at them closely and they think it's a poster. So that's why I can score on stuff like this without, you know, having to worry at all. Usually they stamp a seal impression on what it is. Not always, though. So again, it might just look like a tube of, you know, a poster tube. So again, you see the prices, you see the bottles, you see the overall count in these. I sell, you know, poster stamps as well. I sell trade cards of dairy-related items. Across the board, dairy sells. You can find almost anything in dairy-related. There's uniforms from the drivers. You know, there's metal signs, there's flange signs, cardboard signs, again, postcards, even some of the print ads of dairy will sell. But again, that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. Hopefully you liked it. If you did, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon up top to be notified when I go live or post new content. Subscribe and tell a friend.